Welcome to Lights in the Night, the show that's exploring the unknown, one light at a time. I'm Russell.
And I'm Max. We're talking UFOs, alien life, and the mysteries of the cosmos.
Is anyone out there? Tonight, we're looking for answers.
Join us, if you dare. The lights are on, and the night is calling.
Lights in the Night. It's time to shine a light on the darkness.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Lights in the Night. I'm Max Duckworth, and I'm so excited to be here with Russ. And our third co-host, Dana Sardano, was not able to join us this week, but she will be with us next week. So if you watched last week and got to see some of her flair, then you'll get to see more of that in the future, and I'm really excited to have her. If anybody wants to call into the show today to ask a question to either Russ or our guest, you can call in at 888-994-4995 at Studio A. And I'm going to turn it over to Russ to introduce our guest for today.
Yeah, we have Gillian Green. She's from the UK. She's psychic, a spiritual advisor. She's been teaching people how to read the future, look into the past, and understand what's happening in terms of the entities that have made us on this planet and are overseeing us, if you will, like in the movie The Truman Show. So here we are. Gillian, really appreciate you being here. She's really good at what she does. And I got this book, Saving Jesus, by Michael Ledwith. I think she's been through that, and she can do some analysis for us, so we don't have to do a reading of 600 or 700 pages. So the question I would have of Gillian is, who was Jesus, and why did he come to the planet, and what were his goals and objectives in coming here to teach us love, or his essence of what he believed? Go right ahead.
That's a very, very big question, Russ. And it really is one that's going to almost take the whole hour to answer. So let's go with it. Who was Jesus was the first part of that question. Well, he was a superhuman being who was born of a female human, a human female, and a non-human, or rather evolved human, father who was not on this planet. So, today when we hear and read about these alien abductions, we think, oh, it's very strange, it's very odd, it's very unusual. Yet the entire Christian world has no problem with actually understanding that Christ was born of the Virgin Mary, but his father wasn't of this world. In other words, he was an extraterrestrial. If I am correct in this, and I certainly can stand corrected when I get to the other side myself and find out anything that I don't already have imparted it to me, but as far as I'm aware, Christ was born of a father who was one of the Anunnaki, one of the great Anunnaki lords, who were believed by the people on earth at the time to be gods. Now, if you wish to say Christ the Son of God, then that is true in the sense that he had godlike abilities and qualities because he was born of one of those whom humans believed were gods. But if you read your Bible, you will find that in the Garden of Eden, the gods were talking and discussing among themselves. And we know from the Bible itself that there were at least two of these gods, Jehovah and Yahweh, and that eventually the Jewish people decided on Jehovah would be the name of God, the Yod-Heh-Voh-Heh, rather than Yahweh. But actually it's the two people. It's the Enlil of the Anunnaki and the Enki of the Anunnaki. That is the earth commanders and the space or air commanders. And they were the ones who were heard to be talking in the Garden of Eden in the beginning. So they weren't really the source of all creation. They were you might say, lesser gods. simply because they were more evolved or more developed and more capable than humans were at that time. So this is where that whole basis comes from. Who was Christ? Well, Christ was a being born of one of the small letter gods and a human mother whose DNA was developed to be perfect from the time of David and the house of David, way back, the house of Jesse, way back when David was born. David, 1,500 almost years earlier than the birth of Christ, had apparently been sitting at a council meeting of the Anunnaki at the time, and this is what they told me, right? They'd be, after the Anunnaki left the planet, which was about 500 years after they really allowed the people, the Sumerian people, they felt they were developed enough to be allowed to rule themselves and no longer needed these priest kings to control them. So it's a very long time ago. But it was decided the Anunnaki could leave the planet and leave it to humans to run it themselves, which is fine, right? But once the Anunnaki left, as they went, their orbit takes them round the back of the sun and out the other side, and that takes about 400 years, roughly. So once they left and then came round the back side of the sun and could see again what was happening on Earth, they were absolutely horrified by the mess that in less than 500 years humans managed to get themselves into. So I guess times were pretty much like they are today. You know, it was somebody very egotistical was trying to control the humans, and everything was going awry, and there was fighting and difficulty. So there was a great sense of guilt, huge amount of guilt among the Anunnaki, because they say, hey, we're responsible for this. We did it. We developed these humans to this level of Homo sapiens sapien. We evolved them to this level of ability. We taught them all the things to do. So they are our responsibility. Now, it's not that the Anunnaki ever thought or want to think that they own planet Earth, but they certainly did think that they had a huge responsibility. So they had a big council meeting. And at this council meeting, they said, well, what are we going to do about this? And what they decided was that they needed to send one of their own back to Earth to really get down to it and teach the people how to live with the people and show them the right way of living so that they could eventually evolve into immortality. So after they decided that this was to be done, they said, well, we want a volunteer. We're not going to designate anybody. We want a volunteer. Now, if you can imagine what this is like, imagine the mighty princes of the universe who have huge lengths of life, endless abilities, all the things that you could ever imagine available to them. And one of these mighty lords and princes was going to come down to Earth, be born to a human, and really take over from there and live with the people, live not necessarily with the poor people, but with the people, right? And so they got busy and they looked for a volunteer. Well, eventually, the junior member of the council, of the Anunnaki Council, which held the seat of 10 at that time, right, he stood up and he said, I will take on this job, but I have conditions. I will only do it if you guarantee me that should these people down there kill me, and they usually kill the messenger, should they kill me, then I will get a second crack at it, and you will guarantee me that I can go back to Earth and I can really take over and really rule things the tough way rather than the kind way. So they all agreed on this, and this junior member of the council, his brother, half-brother actually, stood up and said, well, if you're going to do this, as your brother, I will stand with you, and I will go to Earth myself and develop the bloodline, the mitochondria necessary in the mother to produce this being that's really a super being. So at that time, the great King David came to earth and was born to the house of Jesse, and from there on, he's, as you all know your Bible stories, he became King David of the Jews. He's extremely well known, and about 1,000 or so years later, the baby Mary was produced. Her mother was Anna, and the chosen father for Jesus, the chosen earthly father, was Joseph. Now, both Anna and Joseph, and of course Mary, were royalty. They were of the line of Judah, the kings of Israel, and Christ was born to be king of Israel. He was not born to be poor or in poverty, but he was born to be... I'm sorry, I got something strange on my phone.
Well, listen, what I wanted to do then, we got to get into a break in about 3 minutes here. Look, what was his goal? Listen, as I look at Luke 4:18, it says, when they ask him, what are you doing? Why are you here? He said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He hath anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to recover of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, who have been...
Right.
Oh,
That's right.
Okay. So and then he says, I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. Now, go ahead and just, in the next couple of minutes, tell us about his goals, his objectives, and what he accomplished in spite of...
His objective, in spite of how they treated him when he got here, in spite of all that, he did teach the poor. He did teach the way of perfection. He did do, what is it he says, the way, the truth, and the life. And that's what he teaches. He teaches how to live eternally, not just to live on this earth, but to live eternally. That's what he is teaching during his part. So all the healing he does, all those miracles, yes, that's wonderful. And he certainly did it all. But there were many healers at that time. They were very popular in Israel. They were going about all over the countryside, doing their supposed miracles and things. But Christ actually did it. But that wasn't really his purpose. His purpose was to teach the people how to live with one another. And their only thought was get rid of the Romans. But he wasn't interested in getting rid of the Romans. He was interested in ruling Israel, as he had a right to do, in such a way that those people who heard his message, not just the Jewish people, but anybody who heard his message, could actually achieve eternal life, which is the ultimate goal for all human souls.
Okay. I'm coming up on a break in about a minute 30. So to capsulize this in a succinct way, would you say he came to teach love because he says in John 15, 17, he says, I command of you to love one another. Like the first commandment. He said, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, all thy mind, all thy soul, and all thy strength. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second is like unto it, love thy neighbor as thyself. So I command you to love each other as I love you. Would that be the core of his preaching, his ministry?
Right. Yes, I would totally agree with that. Except I would say for myself.
Right.
I would say the Lord God is the source of all creation, which is not necessarily one of the people who was talking in the garden.
Now, for the people who want to do some research, would you recommend Saving Jesus by Michael Letwith in terms of the understanding?
I think that's an excellent book.
Okay. Okay, all right. And of course the Bible has a story itself. But Well, let me do this. It's 15 minutes after the hour. Let me take a break, and we'll be back in just a minute to continue the discussion of Jesus, his goals, his objectives, and his life's work.
Lights in the Night is brought to you by Super Patch, revolutionizing wellness through cutting-edge neurotech patches that help you feel, move, and live better. Whether you're seeking improved balance, energy, or overall well-being, Super Patch has a solution for you. For more information, call 561-302-2588 or visit us online at ufo.superpatch.com. Take the first step to a better you with Super Patch.
We're back, and the night is getting darker.
The lights are still on, and the truth is waiting. Stick with us.
More mysteries, more lights in the night.
Hi, welcome back. And we have Gillian Green on the line with us, who we're talking to her about Jesus and his history with the planet. And we're talking about the Anunnaki. I'm really interested in knowing more about this and the meeting that we were talking about earlier. I'm wondering if you can talk more about that, Gillian.
Sure. What do you want to know?
Who were the Anunnaki?
The Anunnaki have... Okay. First let me say, I can only tell you what is my truth. And
Right.
my truth, all I know, is none of it has come from books. I've read Sitchin, yes. Who hasn't read Sitchin? But long before I met Sitchin, I was well aware of all this, because everything I know about any of this simply came from spirit. And actually, I call the being that I have had as a constant companion all my life, I call him David, because when I was a child, he used to appear to me as the biblical King David. That's how he would be dressed up, just so he didn't frighten me. But, he was in a picture in my Bible, and that's how he looked to me. So all the information that I know comes from him directly. He is one of the Anunnaki lords, or from one of his associates. And I won't even presume to say I have been visited by Jesus, but I have, and Mary. So I know all these people. They're all friends of mine for a lifetime. And so now in this age of disclosure that we're supposed to be living in, when everything is being known, first of all, it is a marker, of course, of the end times, where it does tell you in the Bible, everything, God knows everything, and everything will be known in the end, right? So we're right into the middle of those disclosures now, and some of them are very interesting. The Anunnaki have their councils on a regular basis. They seat 24 at a time, and then the seat of 50 is, of course, Anu. But it goes 5, 10, 15, 20, and all the even numbers are the men, and all the odd numbers are the women. So when I'm at home, I have my own seat, which is 35, and the Anu sits at 50, the seat of 50, and he runs everything. He's in charge of everything. Now,
So
I haven't been home for a very long time.
Okay, let me do
So,
this. Let me do
I
this, Gillian. So we can say that when people want to do some research and look at the book by The 12th Planet by Zachariah Sitchin, he has that story that you talk, right? That they, and you were saying that
Yes.
you have been born dozens of times. You've been on this planet more than one time, right?
I
And
have,
that-
yes.
Right.
Yes, I have.
So why, your first time briefly, when did you come here? 400,000 years ago, your first?
Oh, I came the first time that I remember to this planet. Well, I was actually here at the time of Atlantis, which is a very long time ago. And then the whole Atlantis fell apart. A building fell down. I got hit on the head and I was gone. I was in absolute blankness, nothing for a very, very long time. And David actually found me and dragged me out of that black place wherever I was. And that is several 100,000 years ago. And I was invited at that point to join with the Anunnaki. I was not born to them originally. I was not an original Anunnaki, but I was invited to join them. And I was adopted by them, you might say. So in order to become a real Anunnaki, you have to be born to them. So I went through a birthing process and have a mother and a father who are true Anunnaki, as I am now. And the first time that I remember coming to this planet with them was about 400,000 years ago. And we were in East Africa looking for the ground to build the laboratories on. We were going to build the laboratories for genetic engineering in East Africa. And in those days, East Africa was known as Sheba. And Ningashida, the second son of the Enki, his Ningashida actually means Lord Gish of Sheba. Ningashida is his epithet.
Let me cut in for a second. It was Billy Carson, who has a show, has millions of people watching this show on a regular basis, and
Yeah.
the people who subscribe to your show gives him about $500 million a year.
Wow.
Yeah, on his podcast. So he talks about all of this. Would you have people, and you've written a couple books, did you write about the Anunnaki in any of your books?
No, I don't think so. Well, I wrote that small booklet, The Return of the Anunnaki, and the reason I did that just not many years ago. And it's a booklet. I'm just looking at it now to see how many pages it has. It has about, I don't know,
About
40
50 pages, yeah.
30
So,
pages.
so when you
Yes,
go to
it's just a
the
little book.
website that people can look at that book, it's called nohoax.net. Nohoax.net. That 3 or 4 of your books.
No, that's global.
I'm
That's
sorry?
global at nohoax.net. Yeah. Global
Yeah.
at nohoax.net. That's
Yeah.
the old website that George had.
Right, I know it's still up. I punched it up yesterday, and I was watching it. And
Yes,
let's
it's
talk.
still there. Grant has it now.
Yeah, why? Well, if you were here before, you left for whatever reason, or you were killed, or whatever. But why are you keep returning? You say you've been here a dozen times since
Because,
then.
yes, I have. Because after that first visit, I then left, and I don't remember what happened to me, except I know something happened to me, and I was gone for a long time. And I was back at home for a long time, and I was again reborn to the Anunnaki, so that when I was the equivalent of about 17 in humans terms, I was coming back to this planet on a ship with my parents. And we landed in the Middle East. We landed in the Aegean. And I lived there for over 10,000 years, continuously. I lived in the Aegean for over 10,000, in that area. I lived actually in most of my time in Luxor, in the temple at Luxor, right? So that was about 10,500 years ago. At the end of that time, David, my friend David, who in that incarnation was playing the role of, not incarnation, but life, was playing the role of the Egyptian moon god. His brother Ra took over. Remember Ra of Egypt? He took over and he sent David to South Africa, to South Africa. South America.
Oh, well,
So
let me do
four-
this, Gillian. Let me do this. When you talk about Enki, Anu, and all that information is in the book, The 12th Planet by Zachariah Sitchin. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right.
Well, some of it is. Some of it is.
How about the guy who? How about-
Okay, what is in Zachariah Sitchin's books is what is extant on the planet today in archaeological findings. That's why Zachariah's books are the truth. They're true. They're true information. I didn't come across those books until I was in America. So I must have been about 60 years old at the time that I came across those books. But I can tell you they are I asked David, I said, how good are these books? And he said, they are 95% the truth.
Okay,
In
all right.
other words, whatever situation is true.
How about
True
the book?
information.
How about the book Chariots of the Gods? What do you think about that by Van Daniken?
That's Daniken, and that's Daniken's opinion or belief of what he has found and seen. Again, his is all archaeology, but it's his opinion of his archaeology.
Okay.
The great thing about Sitchin is he doesn't give any opinions.
Okay. Can we say?
just gives you translation.
I'm watching the clock. Can we say that the people who need to know about the Anunnaki can go to the 12th Planet and get or listen to Billy Carson? Have you listened to Billy Carson?
Billy Carson is a great researcher, and he has a lot of really great information on his site.
Yeah, he says he's traveled the world 68 times compiling this information to come back and give it to us. Now, what I wanted to do in the next minute or so is talk about the Council of Nicaea. Can you tell what happened in that taking the Bible?
Well, by the time they got to the Council of Nicaea, the bishops they had developed a hierarchy of the church that they decided would be the Christian hierarchy, and that hierarchy took all the documents that they could possibly find that had ever been written about Christ and his life and his workings, and they decided which ones they would choose to make what they now say, this is the Bible. The Old Testament essentially is the Jewish Torah. The 5 books of the Torah are in the Old Testament, plus some other stories. The rest is what they decided they would have. Let me
do this. I'm looking at the clock. I got 1 minute 50 seconds, and we coming up for wrap up.
Well, let me say this really quick because it's important.
Right.
The bishops and the clergy who decided what would go into the Bible and what would be the belief of the church, 95% of them could neither read nor write.
I see.
So they were obliged to vote on things that they couldn't understand.
Right. Okay. That's a lot of information, isn't it?
It is. I have so much to process.
We have a minute, 20 seconds. How would you wrap it up? How would you wrap all of this up?
I think if anybody has any questions, to send it in to us so we can keep the conversation going next week.
And I think the essence of the conversation is that Jesus was here, and his ministry was about love and caring. He says, I command of you in John 15:17 that you love one another as I love you. Love is, and when we talk about Paul in the Corinthians, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels that have not love, I am about a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal, right? So when you look at the whole thing about truth, love, caring, sharing, the essence of his ministry was to teach us how to love each other. Would you say that, Gillian?
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. Love is the essence of all life. Without love, we do not have life. It's the glue that holds the universe together.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us, Gillian, and thank you all for watching another episode of Lights in the Night. And I'm Max Duckworth and Russ Johnson, and we will see you next week.
Thank you very much for listening to Lights in the Night. Thank you. Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
The lights are fading, but the mystery remains.
Join us next time on Lights in the Night. Same time, same darkness.
Until then, keep looking up.
The night is watching.